Hello, welcome back to the channel. Didn't really feel like playing guitar today, so I figured I'd talk about something that I own. It's not any reviews. I'm just trying to pass on little bits of information I picked up over my lifetime of playing. Take what you want, if you can use it. If you can't, just ignore the fat guy trying to stay sane. Anyway, this is my number one guitar. It's my favorite electric guitar in the world to pick up and play. It's kind of an odd looking thing. If you don't like offset bodies, it looks kind of broken, but there's a story behind it. It's a Washburn Maverick series. This particular one is a BT8 is the model number. The story behind these, they were made somewhere between 95 and 2003, give or take. It's hard to find any info on these. They also ran the same time a custom shop version. This is not that. This is the Maverick. Custom shop was called a WM series, as far as I know. And some people say the WM stands for Washburn Maverick, which would make sense. It's a custom shop version of this guitar. They had set necks and different headstocks, and it was a different guitar, a lot better quality. These are the imports. Now, they made several models of these. It's ridiculous how they did the modeling, because they go from 2 to 10, as far as I can tell. The reason for that, this is an 8, and this is a BT10. Now, it's not exactly a BT10, because you may have noticed I said they go from 2 to 10, not 1 to 10. As far as I can tell, the ones were Billy T models. This is a Billy T model. It says Washburn Billy T. No Maverick series. Who's Billy T? Well, again, hard to find info on these things, but I just assumed he was some kind of country artist from the 90s that I'd never heard of. Billy T sounds like country. Turns out he is the guy at Washburn. He was the product manager. These were his idea, or if they weren't his idea, he pushed to get them built. He's the only reason we have these. So thank you, Billy T, whoever you are. The reason for that is it's a long story. I'll go ahead and tell you the story. You can skip this part if you want. It's what I've pieced together. Grover Jackson, who you may know from Grover Machine Heads, tuning machines, that Grover. He's also the guy that started Jackson Guitars, Grover Jackson. That's his name. He was a big deal when he worked at Washburn in the mid-90s, late 80s, mid-90s, when I don't know exactly how the starts and stops and when he started and stopped. But he worked there. Around the mid-90s, they were losing money, and they were trying to find a way to make money. So I don't know if it was Billy T or somebody else, but somebody came up with the idea that the thing they were sold the most of, their most lucrative item at the time, were these Bantam basses. B-A-N-T-A-M. Bantam basses. Those were the brainchild of Grover Jackson. He was in charge of them. They were his baby. He really put a lot of work into them, and he had full say, as far as I can tell, in what the designs were, how they went out, the whole 9 yards. The reason I say that is that these guitars the way they came up with this design is they basically put the bass into a CAD program and scaled it like it was a guitar. We actually changed the scale to a guitar scale. It shrank the horns considerably, nubbed this one off. On the bass they're a lot longer. But the offset body, the way the top horn comes down in 90s into the heel for the bottom, the straight pull serpent type headstocks, all of the offset dots, inlays were all, it was a bass. It was the Bantam bass. They literally just sized it down to guitar size. Now there's two stories that I've heard. I don't know if either are true, but one story goes that they didn't ask Grover his input on it until they'd already started making the prototypes. I know this because I do know some of them went out as Washburn Bantams because I have one. I don't have it on me right now, but I do have one. The other story was he didn't want the confusion to have a guitar and a bass the same. You know, Bantam basses were established, Bantam guitars weren't. He didn't want any confusion in there. He wanted to, so basically, if you're going to build the things, you ain't putting Bantam on it, because that's my name on my basses. So the compromise was Billy T. As far as I can tell now, this could be totally wrong. Originally they were going to call him the Billy T, but he didn't really want that. So they came up with the Maverick series, which I think is pretty cool because I always thought it was just a line. I'll get to that in a minute. But the Billy T name does stick with all of them because the BT8, Billy T8. So it's kind of a cool little thing if you know what you're looking at. Now, this being a Billy T model, as far as I can tell, the Billy T's are experimental models. I have a few of them. They're all quirky. They don't fit in with the rest of the line. They're all quirky versions of the regular models. So I think it was kind of a thing where, well, we'll put a few of them, like a limited amount out with Billy T on them to tell the difference. Say for instance this one. The reason I call it a BT10, the 8 and the 10 are the same spec normally, except the 8 is stop bar tune-o-matic style, and the 10 is the Floyd style floating double lock and tremolo. There's your difference. That's the only difference normally. The reason I say Billy T models are quirky, you may have noticed, this one has the selector switch up here and then the single volume, single tone. This one has the selector switch where the tone knob's supposed to be and just a master volume. Pay no attention to the little mini switch because somebody had put that in there before I got it trying to split coils. Didn't work. They didn't do it right. Now I haven't had time to rewire it yet. But basically, the bigger difference is the BT8, I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it does have a carved top on it. It is very carved. This one's flat. No carve. They're both bound, neck and body. They both have multi-piece mahogany bodies with wood laminate flame maple tops, which are wood laminate. And I say that because they're not full thickness caps as far as I can tell, but they are real wood laminates. They move under the light and do all the things that real wood does. And the reason I bring that up is you'll find a lot of them have quilted maple tops on them. those are photo flame. At least all the ones I've ever seen. They're not real wood tops. They're photo flame if you don't, with F instead of PH. That means they literally took a piece of film and printed the wood on it and glued it to the top of the guitar and sealed it in with clear coat. They look great. They're just flat. They don't move under the light. The grains and everything, you know, what they call a live top, where the grain moves under the light. These do, because they have real wood. So 8s and 10s, only ones in the range that I can guarantee actually have real wood veneer tops. Now, I've rambled too much. Hopefully I can jump cut some of this out. By the way, you're going to hear a lot of squeaking. My chairs. It's not my chair's fault. I'm a very large guy. This is my number one. This is what replaced my Les Paul. Still have my Les Paul. Love it. It's a 93 Studio. My mom bought it for me for Christmas when I was 16, possibly 17. I can't remember. Whatever 93 was. Problem is, when I got hurt, spinal damage, nerve damage. So even sitting down, I use a strap when I play guitar for a couple reasons. One, it takes the weight of the guitar, so I don't have to hold it, and I can play better. And two, where I've gotten big, my gut just kind of shoves it out of the way. I also have this weird problem that's as flat as I can put my hand out in front of me if I strain real hard. So never hand me a plate with anything on it, because I will spill it every time. Should cut that out. Probably won't. Anyway, you may wonder why I've got so many of these, why I like them so much. This is why. When I was a kid, I've always been, on the bigger side. I had big hands, and anybody, every time I would talk to somebody, they'd see me play guitar or whatever, they're like, "Well, you got them big old mittens. You're gonna have to have a baseball bat for a neck." So I took them at their word, and that's what I've been chasing my whole life. I was with these big, huge necks. 94, whenever they came out with these, I saw one of these in an ad, and I thought, that is the ugliest thing. I gotta have one. They look cool. They were weird looking with the offset body and the weird headstock, and I want one. Problem is, I only had 2 music shops in my town, and while one was a registered, licensed Washburn dealership, they either never had one of these in the handful of times during the year I actually got to go to the store, or it just never had one when I was there. I don't know if he never got one or just didn't have one when I was in there, but I never got to pick one up and play it. Flash forward, 45 years old. I'm stuck in a wheelchair for 6 months because my kneecap decided to push its way through my meniscus tendon and get stuck. I don't recommend that to anybody, but there I am. I found myself on Musician's Friend website in their used section, which didn't even know they had, but it makes sense. They take trade-ins, they got to sell them somewhere. There was a picture one. If you've ever seen their pictures, they're god-awful. It was from a downward view. I couldn't tell. I thought the guitar was black. It turned out it was translucent green. Beautiful guitar. But I recognized the headstock shape immediately. That's that guitar. $100. Found one of these and had to have it. Now, finally got to my house. and I'm unwrapping it from the bubble wrap because it's just in a box. And I see the neck through the bubble wrap, so I just stick my hand in and grab the neck to unwrap it. And the second my hand wraps around the neck, I thought, oh, I have screwed up. Because let me tell you something, these things, if a Les Paul has a baseball bat neck, these things have a pencil neck. Now, you may see it different than me, but usually when they go real thin with the neck, they also go wide and flat, like a shredder neck. Think of a wizard neck from Ibanez. They didn't do that here. They went skinny, they went thin with it, but they stayed skinny with it. It's like a pencil. There's so much extra room. I thought, there's no way I could ever play that. So I sat down and I started playing, kind of noodling around on it, and realized I was catching notes that I never caught before. I was stretching further, and I could reach things easier. It changed my whole world. The way I thought about playing the guitar, the way I came at playing it. If you're one of these people who always just assumed you needed the biggest neck you can get, that is great. If that works for you, that is absolutely fine. But you don't have to get one of these. I'm not suggesting you do. I am suggesting that if you do, if you try one, any guitar with a really thin, small neck on it, just to make sure, give it a good shot. If you find one of these in a pawn shop hanging on a wall, pick it up and just see. Because if you told me that I was going to fall in love with guitars that have these little tiny pencil necks on them, I would have laughed. But this thing changed my whole world. Plus, it's extremely light, especially compared to a Les Paul. It does have a bolt-on neck, and a lightly carved top, but it's great. So it may change the way you look at guitar, it may not. I don't know. But just kind of give it a shot. Now, real quick, another reason this is my favorite is it's orange burst. I love orange. Orange is my favorite color. It's hard to find an orange guitar that looks cool. This one, to me, looks very cool. When I got it, somebody had swapped out the tuning machines on it for cheapies. They weren't the original Grover. So I upgraded to some hip shot locking machine heads on here. I got lazy and used the little adapter bars, because if you notice, they're crooked. A lot of these are what I call snaggletooth. You have to plug the holes and re-drill them. They go with the curve instead of lining them up with the base. Never mind. But anyway, lock and hip shot tuning machines, Seymour Duncan pickups. They're supposed to be the Pearly Gates set. That's what the packaging says. But I went back to Seymour Duncan. I went on Seymour Duncan's website today looking for something else. I was flipping through. The Pearly Gates they have on there now are covered. So I don't know if these, I've had these a while, so maybe they changed it. But they call these the Pearly Gate set. It's what they're supposed to be. But anyway, they're Seymours and they sound incredible. I put these gnarled knobs with the perloid tops in them. I went with the roller bridge, and this is not a real PT9. I think it's called what's called PT9 tailpiece, because one, Gibson wants almost $200 for one, and they were always out of. I couldn't buy one, even if I had the money to buy one. Couldn't. Found this one on Amazon for $30. Does the job. I don't use the fine tuners. I don't use the fine tuning adjustments on this at all. The only reason I want it, I have this theory that the bigger chunk of metal that you can anchor the strings into, or the bigger chunk, the more mass at the anchor end of the strings, the better stability they get. Especially since I play 9-gauge Super Slinkies exclusively. They're kind of a floppy string. Anchor them into some good chunk of metal, and it sounds better to me. I could be totally wrong, but that's the only reason I wanted it, was because it has all this mass to it. And if you look at the bridge compared to a regular tune-o-matic, it's quite a bit chunkier than that too. Plus the rollers, I like roller bridges because even though there's no tremolo system to it, you still bend strings, especially the top three. You know, I play a lot of stuff where I bend down on them, which pulls back and forth, and the little ridges do go across. You pull back and forth on those blades, and it can kind of lead to tuning problems. I've never had any tuning problems with the roller bridge. It eliminates that. Plus it adds mass to the anchor into the string. So that's my number one. That's what I play. If I'm just sitting around the house playing and I want to plug in and play something, this is what I grab. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.